Buzzfeed is an online media outlet targeting younger audiences. The company is home to Tasty, Nifty, and other successful brands of the company. Started in 2012, Buzzfeed sub-company Buzzfeed News works to inform viewers of events occurring around the world, with 250 reporters, editors, and foreign correspondents located in various countries across the globe. To get a closer look at what goes on behind the scenes of the stories we read daily, we interviewed Ben Smith, editor-in-chief of Buzzfeed News, who showed us what it was like to get from idea to article. As the audience, we see the final product. Weeks, months, and sometimes years of behind-the-scenes work are packed into a single video or article, consumed by the audience in minutes.
You rarely come up with ideas just sitting around sort of brainstorming, although sometimes you do, but really reporters are out in the field talking to their sources, to people who are experts or who are victims or who have some connection to the news. But really, everybody has some connection to the news, and sometimes you're just out there talking to your friends. But stories really come from conversations with people, or from looking at data and seeing something interesting or hearing something interesting. A rumor, a claim, a statement of some kind, and then trying in a very focused way to get to the bottom of it. With reporting, there's always, the final product can often look reasonably kind of polished and together, but it's a very human, messy process.
The process of political journalism requires immense amounts of research and corroboration. Biases will be present throughout sources, but when you break everything down, the intentions are the same. This style of journalism delivers information and factual evidence to the audience, allowing them the freedom of drawing their own conclusions and forming their own opinions on a subject.
Well, I think that we cover kind of reality as it is, and politics and pop culture are always interwoven, and politics itself is a mixture of incredibly important policy matters of real life and death to specific people on one hand, and on the other hand, rumor and gossip and personality and people's kind of very personal decisions and the character of politicians. And so politics has always sort of been at the intersection of those things.
So in the current political climate that we're living in, how do you decide which articles to publish and when?
I don't think the political climate fundamentally changes which stories you tell, though certainly right now there's, Donald Trump is the center of the national conversation in a way that I've never seen before, and stories that in some way tell people something new about the situation we're in broadly, or the stories that people want to read. We certainly try to avoid just getting stuck into the trap of just sort of writing about whatever we tweeted in the morning.
On January 10, 2017, Buzzfeed News made the controversial decision to publish a series of documents known as the Steele dossier, or the Trump-Russia dossier. Written by former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele, these documents accused Donald Trump of working with Russia during the 2016 presidential election.
Sure, a reporter of ours got a hold of this document toward the end of 2016, after the election. And at that point, a couple of other news organizations had it. Many top officials in the government and intelligence and diplomacy had it. And so we had started to talk about, at some point, if everyone in Washington knows about this and are starting to make decisions based on it, should we share this document with the public? We hadn't really made that decision, and mostly we were focused on verifying or knocking down the different claims in the document about Trump and his circle. And then CNN actually reported first that the president and the president-elect, because Obama was still president, had been briefed by the director of the CIA on this dossier. And I think, in our view, that really made it. There's no more central public document than something that was being briefed to two presidents of the United States. And so I think for us that turned the document itself into a story very clearly, and so we sort of decided to publish it.
A Russian tech entrepreneur who is named in the dossier decided to sue Buzzfeed News for defamation. On December 19, 2018, the judge ruled that Buzzfeed satisfied their burden as to each element of the fair report privilege. The aforementioned privilege states that if a party publishes something defamatory, they are protected from liability as long as it is made clear that the source was an official public document or statement by a public official, and that the source was used fairly accurately. Simply put, Buzzfeed emerged victorious. Whether you're reading, listening to the radio, watching television, or on your phone, the news seems to be everywhere you look. People are constantly being informed and reminded of things occurring around the world. Society can effortlessly stay up to date with current trends, movements, and events because of social media.
How has the role of journalism changed in the past decade or so?
I think the sort of core values of journalism haven't changed. We're trying to find things out and tell people, but the forms have changed so much, and there are new outlets like Buzzfeed, and there are new places that the content is distributed, like Facebook and Twitter. And also this new transparency where you can see reporters talking to each other on the internet all day and get a sense of whether or not we want that, whether or not that's good for us. It's just much more transparent who reporters are and how they work. And I think where journalists maybe used to be able to kind of hide behind this sense of like, well, we do this kind of special thing that you could never understand or imitate. It's now, I think, much clearer to people that they can check our work. Because if we do a story that you can't, it's kind of like science. If we do a story where you can't replicate our findings, there's a problem.
Generation gaps have become increasingly prominent in modern society. One of the most commonly acknowledged generation gaps is that between baby boomers born 1946 to 1964 and Generation Z born 1995 to 2015. This gap is largely defined by the rise of technology. This means that the way in which generations use technology and social media are extremely different, allowing room for misunderstanding and the spread of false information. Generation Z has had modern technology available their entire life, and the difference that this has made in their lives is apparent. Teens have recently been taking responsibility and confronting global issues head-on with the help of technology.
We've all seen how teens these days have really spearheaded movements like the March for Our Lives movement. So how do you think current events have impacted teens in their response?
I I've got a couple teenage kids, and I think that teens are generally much more sophisticated about the media ecosystem we live in, and particularly like baby boomers. Like, I think if you are on Facebook and looking at like how your elderly relatives conduct themselves on Facebook, it's like painful to watch. It's like because I think particularly older people, and some particularly people my age, like don't really understand the kind of context of some of these social platforms that they live on. I think if you wonder like who is spreading kind of crazy fake stories on the internet, it's often people. I think on the other hand, though, you guys live in this very destabilized ecosystem where you didn't grow up with, 3 television networks or 2 newspapers, knowing that those were the trusted sources. And you have to sort of figure out who to trust, not just based on whether they have slick production values, but based on whether you feel connected, whether you have to put together a lot of different cues to know who to trust and who not to trust. And it's easy to get that wrong, and easy to fall into trusting the person who's telling you what you want to hear.
As both the news itself and the audience evolves, journalism becomes a vessel to connect younger generations with the world around them. BuzzFeed, while still a relatively young company, is at the forefront of many issues and guides the youth through the maze of journalism, keeping them informed, involved, and interested in the world that they live in.